You're watching Telecom TV from the ETSI 5G Infrastructure Summit, and I'm joined now by Adrian Scrase, who is Chief Technology Officer at ETSI. Adrian, good to see you again. What are the objectives of this year's ETSI 5G Summit?
Our previous summits have looked at 5G in general, but have tended to take a very strong radio focus. There is a misperception that 5G is all about radio. Even if you talk to the learned engineers, they always tend to drop into a radio discussion when we're talking about the next generation. Of course, when we're looking at developing a very high-performing radio interface and a radio structure, what lies behind that becomes equally important. And so now we think is the right time to really have a spotlight on the infrastructure that will support this high-performance radio network, and hence the summit here today.
Now, we are working towards certain milestones as we seek to standardize 5G. Where are we in the overall timeline?
I mean, you will have heard already the big discussions we've had recently about accelerating the overall timeline. In terms of the radio component, we've said that by the end of this year we will have a basic definition of the new radio that will be available by December. Then when we start to discuss the core network, of course that's a few steps behind in terms of maturity. But the infrastructure discussion has started now. Normative work is underway. This has to be completed by June next year. So we have a very, very short window of opportunity now for the infrastructure discussion to catch up with the radio discussion.
So for vendors and operators who want to have a say, who perhaps want to influence the direction that 5G standardization will take, now's the time to do it.
It's now or never, because by June 2018 it's got to be finished. So it takes a period of time to collect the bright ideas about how the infrastructure could look for the future, synthesize those ideas and evaluate them, and then reach conclusions in a definitive form by next June. So really it is now or never. And if any industry wants to come and influence the future design of our infrastructure, it has to be done right now.
Now, we're seeing a number of so-called pre-5G technology trials from vendors and operators at the moment, but are these mainly focused around the radio side of 5G?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. To date, there's been a lot of trialling of radio, and rightly so, because the radio is a very important part of 5G. In terms of network infrastructure, we've seen recently in Barcelona some very good demonstrations of network slicing, for example. But network slicing is only one small component of the overall network infrastructure. There's much, much more to the infrastructure than just network slicing. So it will be difficult to have trialing until we've actually designed the architecture of the new infrastructure. So that work is underway now. We would expect trialing to occur, say, from the end of this year onwards, once we have a relatively clear idea which direction we're going with the network infrastructure.
Will the new 5G core be compatible with today's existing EPC? What about migration plans for operators to move from 4G to 5G?
Yeah, I'm not sure compatibility is a useful example here, because we will be replacing the existing core network with a new core network that looks and feels quite different. Its whole architecture will be different. It will be based on very different parameters. But of course you cannot expect operators who have a large deployed infrastructure to suddenly change overnight from one to the other. And indeed, in the first sessions today during the summit, we've had a look at migration plans. Once we know what the new infrastructure will look like, it must include a migration plan from what we have today to what we want to have in, say, 5 years' time. Bearing in mind that a very important parameter for the new design is this element of convergence between, say, fixed and mobile architectures. In the future, we do want to have a network architecture that will support all services, but including fixed and mobile. So there has to be a migration plan. Operators just aren't going to change their networks overnight.
Adrian, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.